Good evening, everyone. Nala Karak Nungamot, Kan Karak Ninja Buja. We acknowledge the traditional custodians and the lands in which we meet. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of Council on Wednesday, the 25th of March 2026, held here in Northcliffe. Thank you for welcoming us to Northcliffe. We have had a fantastic day today. Thank you to Councillor Batink, who orchestrated a tour of your amazing little piece of paradise. Between popping out and sampling some berries and raspberries, checking out some local roads, popping down to Windy Harbour to see what work is predicted to be done there and what needs to be done there. We've had a fantastic day, so thank you all. And we had our afternoon tea, which celebrated our volunteers and local legends. Thank you all very much for coming to that. We really do appreciate everything that you do to make your town such a vibrant and fantastic little place to live. So thank you very much. Item 3 is attendance. Apologies, we have nil. And approved leave of absence. Councillor Jade Darren has been granted a leave of absence for this meeting. Declarations of interest. I don't think we have any interest. No, sorry, we're going home. There is no interest tonight. Thank you very much. Item 5, public question time. 5.1, response to public questions taken on notice. There were quite a few questions taken on notice from the last council meeting. They form part of this agenda. They are listed on the council website. So anyone that asked a question last meeting, that's where your answers will be. 5.2, public question time. Under meeting procedure determined by the Shire of Manjimup Standing Orders Local Law 2013. This is the only opportunity for members of the public to ask up to a maximum of 2 questions of council. There is no further opportunity to question the Shire of Manjimup during the meeting. Questions can be asked on any matter, not just the issues included in the meeting agenda. Each person will have up to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, you'll hear a bell. We will attempt to answer any questions that we can. Anything that needs further information will be taken on notice. And as the past meeting, those answers will form part of the minutes and agenda of the following meeting. We would ask that if you have any notes that we could have them, because that will form part of the minutes. And if you could state your name and address, would be fantastic. Please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome, Donnell and all councillors to Northcliffe Town. My questions relate to 2 locations in Northcliffe, and Andrew Conway is the person that I would like these to be referred to. So the question is, will these be referred on to Andrew Conway?
Quicker than you realise, Mr. Glynn.
Thank you.
No worries.
Andrew emailed us, as in the people on the Northcliffe Community Development Group, on the 30th of September last year with regard to a footpath from Calcup Road to a corner of Calcup and Meerup Street down to the corner and entrance to the school. That is requested as a question to be completed. It's been commenced. The curb is ready for the path to be laid. Currently, parents and children have no footpath, and there it's a sloping rough grass and they fall over and stumble. Prams get bogged, all sorts of things. So that's question 1. The other one is yet another footpath. This one is the footpath from Northcliffe Town to Milltown and return. The beautiful path that was laid with different grant money from Northcliffe to the cemetery and back to Windy Harbour Road is the sample of what would be great. It is a path, it's there. But currently there are about 30 residents in Milltown. A number of them would like to walk to town, but they are scared to because they're not all fit and well. They're frail, and there are patches, 3 of them in particular, that are very difficult for them. I personally have picked up the fellow on his quad who's tipped and rolled his quad and got him going again because of that footpath. The request is that Andrew Conway, I understand, is in charge of finding the funding for footpaths, and in his letter he says that he is working on it. So I just wanted to get it raised here at this meeting, and we would look forward to seeing progress on those two. Thank you.
Fabulous, thank you. Very good timing. We are just about to go into budget deliberations, and I'm sure your councillor has taken note of those going into those deliberations, but we will definitely make sure that those questions go to Mr Conway.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to do anything else? Hi.
Hello. I'm going to stand here, otherwise you won't see me.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to all of you, and welcome to you. My question concerns...
Can you just state your name and address? Name and address.
Sorry,
Name
Jane
and address.
Walters, Datchet Road, and I've come to ask some questions on behalf of the volunteers at the Northcliffe Cemetery. We met with Danelle, was kind enough to come down in May last year, and we showed her around the cemetery, and after that we sent a lift off to the Shire regarding the maintenance. They're all maintenance issues, and I got a very nice email back from Andrew Conway, who again, it's on his plate, listing all the things and saying they were looking into them. But his reply was on the 27th of May, and as such, not one thing on the list has been done, and as far as we know, there's been no budget or time allocated to this. Things like, I went up there again to check today, the weeds are growing out of the gutters in our little room. Our plan is extremely tatty. These are all things that really won't take a lot to do, but a stitch in time saves nine, and we don't want to lose our nice little gazebo building up there. Lattice needs repairing, etc., and that's been mentioned to the Shire on lots of occasions. The actual cemetery itself looks absolutely lovely. Today I've been up there, and yesterday the girls were raking, and it looks really nice. So the volunteers are putting in the time. We're really just asking to be supported with maintenance that really, should be done. Our volunteers can't clean the gutters because they're all elderly. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. We have noted those, and we will have a chat with that again. We're heading into budget. Great timing.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a lot going on for budget, Mr Lockwood. Hi.
Hi there. Hi, my name's Katrina Zemi. Hello. I live in 200 Golf Links Road in Pemberton, and I'm just speaking about towards the proposed Greenland estate changes to the policies there. And just for the record, I don't approve of the changes that are being proposed, so I'm against that. So the couple of points which I'm going to talk about tonight are as follows, and I'll have to read it if that's okay. The 2018 environmental report for Greenlands Estate stated that a 120-metre native vegetation buffer was needed between the road and the building envelope. However, a 170-metre setback was mandated by the Shire in the policy guidelines for the estate instead. So I question, why was a 170-metre and not a 120-metre setback approved? We believe that this was due to the requirement put on the subdivision approval by Bendotti Avocados across the road from the applicant's property. A 170-metre setback was specifically put in place to protect both the farmer and the Greenland estate residents. For example, the impact from residual chemical pollution and noise from the agricultural practices from across the road. Large packing shed, all sorts of things go on, which is normal. The buffer zone between the farmer and residents was put in place to protect residents from these problems and also avoid conflicts, potential conflicts between farmer and resident. I totally understand that. Why seek adjoining properties approval in the first place if one person can have it changed because they wish to increase their building envelope to build multiple dwellings on their property? We purchased our property in good faith of the Shire. We were fully aware of policy guidelines and have, at greater cost to us, adhered to them. If this proposed change is approved, it will reduce our trust in the Shire due to its inability to uphold its own policy and its compromised sense of fairness and equity. Is the Shire worried about reputational damage to them all if this is approved? We ask that you all vote against, or I ask that you all vote against the proposed change to the policy for the reasons that I have just mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Janet Lee, 365 Mirrop Road, Northcliffe. I just have a follow-up question on the proposed plantation application that was declined as per the last meeting. During that meeting, I made a comment or query as to why the submission group was decided upon a radius. And I wanted to follow up on that. I didn't make it clear that it was a question. So my question is, will the following application, which will no doubt come down the pipeline, be open for submission via a different mechanism? Can you explain your reasoning for using a radius mechanism? And can I ask the council that it use instead the access road, as in those who are affected by that single access road, all be permitted to submit? I was not permitted to submit. My neighbour was. So there was a strange little jurisdiction issue. So my questions are, can you change that? Can you change that submission radius, or how you go about that? And have you received an application? I guess. So that's it. Those are my two questions.
So as in the radius, you mean the consultation and the comment?
That's right.
The request for comment radius?
Yeah,
Okay.
I literally found out that it was going to be discussed on the evening that I turned up to the meeting, because I was not given an opportunity earlier. So my neighbours they submitted letters, which they did a fantastic job, hence the decline. But I was not given an opportunity to submit any complaint or whatever submission. So there's probably a couple of other people that would also be affected. In fact, I think that entire access road should be considered as people that are affected by that plantation. So the question is, can all people using that single access road to leave their properties and get out of the area be given opportunity to submit on future applications?
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Jeanette. So the 500 metres is based on policy. Your question sort of pertains to an amendment to a policy. That's something that we can certainly look at into the future. The stakeholder engagement was also undertaken in the website, the newspaper, Anteno, Facebook. There was a few other means. It wasn't just direct stakeholder engagement. There was a broader stakeholder engagement done as well.
Thank you. Sorry. Any other questions? Thanks, Sam.
Hi, Sam Martin, 246 Golf Links Road. I was just wanting to speak in support of the alternative recommendation for approval for the item 9.5.2 Greenlands policy to amend the setbacks to 120 metres. The main reason I sort of suggested this was I was talking to the planner, and the policy was up for review, as these things are, and there were ways of improving it. And I had been designing for my house, and it seemed really just an unnecessary encumbrance to have the house pushed all the way back to the last 50 metre of the block. So, and it's just an unnecessary encumbrance, essentially detrimental to the amenity of these blocks, where if we change it to 120 metres, we can use half the block for what we want, and half the block is used as an agricultural buffer zone. The 170 metres setback at the moment just adversely hinders the provision of ancillary accommodation. And just to be clear, when I was sort of, requesting this, that the council look at this. I talked to the farmers across the road and they didn't seem to have a problem with it. And the neighbours I talked to didn't have a problem with it. And it seemed to just be logical to me. And I apologise to anyone that sort of feels, any of the other neighbours I didn't talk to, but I didn't really have a chance to talk to everyone. And I didn't actually think that any of the block owners would mind having their title less encumbered by this unnecessarily small building envelope for habitable structures, because over time, ancillary accommodation, over time people like to build cottage, like a granny flat for their kids or their old people in their family. Anyway, the policy is detrimental to the rural streetscape, as everyone is also putting cheap sheds and water tanks at the visible middle bit of the blocks and the houses. So if someone did put a house up the front, it would actually sort of enhance the streetscape a bit. It would be good to be able to have ancillary accommodation or granny flats in the middle of the blocks, not all clustered down the back with everyone on top of each other. And then the original environmental consultant, when assessing the development, recommended that only 100 metres was enough. So this 120 metre setback is 20 metres more than the consultant's recommendation. And the farmers across the road are completely happy with it. They've put in a strong letter of support for this, so I don't see much problem there. It's just currently a waste of space as well. To only have sheds in that zone of the blocks just doesn't seem to make sense. And I just don't see that there's any significant detrimental effect on the neighbours, the farmers or the current owners of these Golf Links blocks to increase the building envelope. The farmers across the road, as I said, are supportive of it. And most of the owners, myself included, have already built or done their site works down the back and run their main power feeds and put their septics down the back. So really it just leaves a bit of space up the front for a granny flat or ancillary accommodation. There's no financial detriment to these blocks or the people that have already built, because it's actually just unencumbering their title. So I thought people would be kind of happy about that.
That's 3 minutes, Sam.
Yep, I think that covers it anyway. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Come on down.
Hi, my name's... Am I on? Yes. Yeah. My name's Taryn Reislink, also Golf Links Road. What a surprise. Yes, it is a theme. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. An objection of the changes. Just acknowledging what Sam's brought to the table. In terms of the farming across the road, our understanding is they are also objecting to that, so I'm not sure maybe the messaging coming through there. They are concerned with, the building close to the ag buffer, acknowledging that many years ago that the ag, report that was put in, it was not recommended for 120 metres. So why all of a sudden revert back to that? In terms of the ancillary accommodation request, categorically dispute it. I think where we live is such a beautiful part of the world. To put on, granny flats and extra sheds up higher up to the block, I think would just totally take away from the streetscape and why we currently enjoy living where we live. And just basically, privacy, we've all designed and orientated our houses to have some form of privacy. If there's buildings pushing up on the block, that goes away. And it would become very problematic for the farmers, I would say, because you're going to have, many vehicles coming in and out of blocks if you've got multiple, people living on a block. And I'd just like to finish with, we want to be able to trust our shire. So you put in regulations. We all bought our properties acting in good faith. We've all done the right thing, majority. Changing it midway through just creates a lack of trust. But yeah, totally object to this. And we want to, maintain space and, that beautiful part in Pemberton that we live. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Afternoon. Johan Wild from 258 Golf Links Road. I just want to speak in support for this change. I understand there's a lot of feelings going around this. I think feelings are irrelevant. I think we need to think rationally. Ultimately, this proposition, I think, is amazing because what it does is it gives more power back to the landowners, more flexibility to do what they want to do with their block, and this is what it's all about. I feel like everyone should be entitled to organize their land the way they see fit, and this 120 meters, we're just losing 50 meters of potential usable space where we already have this 50 meters of vegetative buffer that is doing this job. Concerning the privacy settings, everyone's privacy, their own responsibility. If you don't want to be seen by your neighbors, you build a hedge, you create a privacy fence, and we already have many houses facing each other at the back, and so you can see your neighbor through the window already. So I think it's, for me, it's just a rational thinking that I would feel empowered and happy that I have more flexibility on my outlook regarding what I want to do in the future, whether it's ancillary dwellings, maybe not. And I understand the feelings that people feel like they've been maybe cheated or it wasn't fair because they've already built the block in a certain way, but it doesn't mean that other people shouldn't benefit for that. Changes can be scary, it could be annoying, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Ultimately, I think it would just be raising the value of the block for everyone as well. If you have another dwelling, you can potentially resell your block for a better price later. So I'm fully in support of this, and I think it'd be amazing, actually, change for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, sorry. That's it. Going once, twice. Fabulous, thank you. Okay, item 6 is presentations. 6.1 petitions. We have nil. 6.2 we have presentations. So I have one presentation. So on Monday, Deputy Shire President and myself had the honour of attending the Kookaburra WA Community Cricket Awards. I'm sorry, can you just wait until we finish? Thank you. Had the honour of attending the Kookaburra WA Community Cricket Awards. The Shire of Manjimup was one of 3 finalists in the Community Facility Project of the Year. So this was dedicated to stage 1 of the project of the Ray Park Collier Street precinct. This project delivered modern compliant LED lighting, essential power upgrades across the precinct, and the impact has been immediate. Cricket Under Lights has transformed the way our clubs, families and volunteers experience the game. We've seen bigger crowds, more flexible scheduling and new players, especially juniors, women and culturally diverse participants. This has been a huge project. We are very excited that we are going into the second stage of the project, which I am sure all our winter sports that use those grounds will be very pleased. So I am absolutely thrilled to give full credit, mostly credit, to our community services in being one of the top 3 for the Kookaburra WA Community Cricket Awards. Well done. Okay. Sorry? It does deserve a clap. So this was $1.7 million of a $15 million project. So it is quite a large achievement going forward. 6.3 deputation. 6.3.1 is the Northcliffe Timber Cluster.
Fair bit of detail that I'm going to go through, so I thought I'd give you
So deputations is 10 minutes, 9 minutes you'll hear the buzzer, the dinger. The ringer dinger. That's a technical term if anyone was wanting to know. The ringer dinger as the bell.
So I'm a resident in Milltown, as a few other residents here. We have been experiencing some problems with the head leaseholder. So Milltown is a lease, 1 block, from the state government leases to the head leaseholder, who then subleases to us. So the leaseholder is responsible for management of the place, so roads, water, etc. And he pays fees to the state government. He also pays fees to the council for rubbish collection and our rates. So the original lease was for 21 years, created in 2002. There's a press release around the time, Minister McGuinty announcing this timber cluster. The motto was believing in Northcliffe, investing in Northcliffe. So it was community managed, the Milltown lease. So the community group managed it for a while, but then I don't know what happened, but suddenly it reverted to a single owner of the timber cluster company. So that person was Russell Black. During this time and subsequently, the owners, us, bought our houses, often derelict, fixed them up, made Milltown a really nice place to live. He did nothing for that. The original lease was about to expire in July 2024. We formed an association, the Northcliffe Milltown Residents Association, and started a campaign to have our voice heard. So we wanted community consultation before the lease was rolled over for another 21 years. We had significant issues with the road, the water, you name it, and also how much we're paying. But we were ignored completely. The same lease is, for the next 21 years, is the same lease that they had last time. So the lease that we're going to have in 2045 is 42 years old. I would have thought that it would have been a good time to refresh the lease, the conditions, and also listen to us and fix some of the problems. The road is pretty patchy. The water tank, one of the water tanks was damaged. It's up on a very high timber structure. I think it may be have to be decommissioned within the next 20 years. Also, the amount of fees residents pay goes up every year at the CPI. Currently $5,540 a year. I've given you the financial statement that the director of NTCH gave us at our AGM. I'd point you to things like the director's fees, the profit. Staggering $111,000 profit was taken by the director last year, just taken out of the Northcliffe economy, taken out of our pockets. I think that's unacceptable. So the previous director actually died within 6 months of signing the lease, so his son and his two daughters have now taken over the lease. They have no experience in land management. They have no association with Northcliffe. They have no interest in what was originally stated as the aims of Northcliffe Milltown. So we're still agitating for control of the head lease. We want the state government to pass the lease to us. So we can then make decisions and manage the land that we own for the benefit of the residents and for the benefit of Northcliffe. Paul Black has said that he's out of his depth and he wants to get rid of it. He's not having fun. He's not having any luck with fixing the roads, fixing the tanks, all that, because he's out of water. He's fish out of water. He doesn't have a clue. So Manjimup Shire Council is one of the other options for taking over the lease. Failing that, the current owners keep managing it really badly and ripping us off. Or they find another private investor to sell the lease to, who will probably continue to rip us off, if not more. So you've got the financial statement. Yeah, there's a whole lot of red flags in it. Honestly, have a look. So, the way forward. The NRMA is proposing to take over the lease. The NRMA has the support of the majority of owners in Milltown, has a constitution, is incorporated, has managed elections, organised meeting, research and written correspondence for the last 3 years. We're proposing the management of affairs for the head lease be managed by elective representatives to provide financial oversight, including annual reports and financial statements. Russell Black never, ever gave us a financial statement. We only got this, which is a photo, because Paul Black managed to show us. Okay, so that was the first we'd ever seen of that, and the scale of the rip-off is there in black and white. So, thinking ahead, community management of Milltown will allow residents to use the vacant land as per the original deal. So, signage regarding the timber industry, community gardens, short-term rental tiny houses and newly built workers' cottages, a solar panel and battery farm to supply Milltown and the Workers' Club, Aboriginal signage and heritage. All these things are on the table. We want Milltown to be looking forward, not just, just give me your money, okay? We want it to be, you know, a thriving part of Northcliffe. Mandurah Shire Council would be seen as a partner, along with community groups and residents of Milltown. Okay, so we'd like to ask Council to support us. So NRMA, MRM and MRA seek support of Mandurah Council in our bid to take over the lease for Milltown. This would involve contacting and liaising with NRMA and the Lands Department towards a successful transition of the head lease. Assistance with an audit of Milltown, such as roads, water supply, fire management, etc. Like I say, the big water tank, I don't know. No one knows if it's going to be good going forward. Any other issues Council has with the operation of Milltown going forward, inserting new clauses into the lease. Like I say, the 21-year lease signed in 2002 is the same lease we've got now. That's crazy. I'd like to see Council and us have some sort of say in how that lease is written, okay? And the Northcliffe Milltown Residents Association would be happy to manage it to a higher standard than it has been done. It has been managed appallingly, unprofessionally. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much for your attention. Any questions?
Thank you. Councillors, got any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. I think that's a doozy. Okay. Yeah. Mr. Smith.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here because the Shire sent me a thing if I wanted to object to Pine Plantation up at Middleton Road, and I sent this letter and into the Shire, and I rang up to see what was going to happen to it, and the answer was that they sent the letter onto the Forest Products Commission. And I said to the lady there, I said, isn't that like leaving the fox in charge of the chook pen? Anyway, I'll just read the letter out in a few points. It said, increased fire risk to the farms in Northcliffe and community. The pine plantation is within 50 metres of the 5-acre blocks, and also the A-class reserve, which is called the Northcliffe Forest Park now, and fire breaks and width probably needs to be increased a fair bit. Otherwise, there'll be I'll just read what I wrote anyway. Northcliffe and its surrounding farms are already highly vulnerable to bushfire. Large-scale pine plantations materially increase fire intensity, fire spread, ember attack and overall fuel loading. Pine is a highly inflammable species and can generate extreme fire behaviour, placing neighbouring farms, homes, livestock and the broader community at unacceptable risk. This introduction of a dense pine plantation located would elevate regional fire hazard levels and can compromise community safety and risk. Also, there's been several lightning strikes on that place over the years. Been here for 100 years and I've attended 2 in the last 6 years. So there's it's a line down Middleton Road there where the lightning's a problem. Number 2.2, a loss of productive agricultural land. Lot 12208 is potentially agricultural land capable of supporting food production, converting viable farm land into pines, removes productive land from the active agricultural use at a time when food security and rural sustainability are increasingly important. Currently, only about 7% of the land in Northcliffe is available for agriculture, and the other 93% is owned by the state. For the agriculture and food production. This change represents a long-term loss to the agricultural capacity of the district and undermines the agricultural character of the area. Bit on soil acidification. Pine plantations are known to increase the soil acidity over time through needle and leaf matter and nutrient uptake. Increased soil acidity reduces long-term productivity and may permanently and alter the land's food-producing capability. This degradation impacts not only on the subject land but on potentially surrounding properties through soil and water movement. And the next point 4, is valuable food production land used for government pine plantations purchased by utilising taxpayer money at inflated prices, rendering current primary producers unable to compete and purchase the land to expand their businesses or increase food production. A practice of this endangers food security and potentially increases the cost of food production for all consumers. And point 5, inequitable allocation of carbon credits. Government pine plantations are eligible for carbon credit allocations, while agricultural landowners who retain their and manage native property on their native forest on their properties are not afforded equivalent recognition or financial benefit. This creates a fundamentally inequitable situation where existing environmental stewardship by private landholders is undervalued, and while plantation forestry receives financial advantage. Inequity in rate contributions. Government-owned pine plantations do not contribute to local rates like private landholders. Local food producers, businesses and homeowners are required to pay rates to fund essential services, infrastructure, emergency response and community facilities. The conversion of rate-paying farmland into government plantations effectively reduces the local rate base while still relying on community services, creating an unfair and economic burden on the remaining ratepayers. Point 7. There is a concern that consolidation or removal of land titles associated with plantation establishment may further reduce rate contributions and transparency in land management. This undermines equitable local government, shifts financial responsibility to other community members and other community members. Middleton Road presents a significant risk to the community safety and sustainability of water, soil and water health, economic fairness, government revenue, and the cumulative impacts of the factors strongly outweigh any perceived benefits of this proposal. I respectfully request this proposal be refused. If you would like to discuss this, my strong objections further, please do not hesitate to contact me. Yeah, well, so that's just basically what I think, and also I think that there should be a study done on the economic, what the economic benefits of the pine plantations do for Northcliffe, because a lot of the communities, even out around Rocky Gully, they're battling to get power. The SEC wants to take all the power off them. So if all the farms go, a lot of the farms go to pines, the other services aren't. They don't want to provide them. So, and also the point of the I think that the point here is that the government have got most of the land here, and they shouldn't be buying up land to put trees in. If they want to do it, they should go to China and do it there. That's what I think. And yeah, well, it'd be cheaper to send the logs there in the long run. But yeah, that's about all I've got to say. But any questions on? Anybody got any questions? Any thoughts? And I wanted to know why you wouldn't bring this up at a council meeting, but just sent it to the Forest Products Commission, because they've got a vested interest.
As in your letter
to
a council meeting?
Well, they asked me for an objection.
Yeah.
So when I sent the objection, I never heard anything, so I rang up, and they told me that they couldn't do anything about it. And I said, "What are you going to do? Bring this up at the council meeting?" And they said, "No." And they sent it to the Forest Products Commission. So, I mean, I just wondered what the view was on it. Why would the Shire send someone an objection and not follow through with it themselves?
Do you want to... Thanks, Acting CEO.
Yeah, so the state can probably do some of those works under the Public Works Act. It might not necessarily always have to go through this council. So let us get some clarity for you, Glenn, and we'll get back to you on the exact process of FPC. Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Smith. We have a couple of deputations to be read. Oh, no, we're not. We're having Mr. Armstrong. I feel like I've spoken to you so much about this that we don't need a deputation. Come on down. No. I love my roads. Come on.
Okay. I believe you've all got a sheet of photos. Name's Michael Armstrong, live on Murilup Road. I'm here to talk about the conditions of the roads in general in Northcliffe, but particularly Murilup Road. It's apparent to me that general road conditions are grossly inadequate to handle the increase in traffic that's been happening in Northcliffe over the last number of years. And my plea tonight here is for better planning and ongoing maintenance of these problematic roads in Northcliffe. I'd like to speak specifically about Murilup Road, because that's the one I live on, obviously, but also contend that problems are inherent on this road are also reflected in the other roads in Northcliffe as well. I just spoke to a gentleman tonight, so it's not in this submission. He just spent $2,500 fixing the front suspension of his car because of the travelling up and down the corrugated roads. But to begin, I'd like to congratulate the Shire on the recent completion of one section of Muralop Road, and that's from the bridge up to the driveway of 243. In my opinion, they did a magnificent job, and they should be congratulated. The road was widened, the sides were prepared adequately, and at the time I thought, hello, this is how they're going to proceed. Unfortunately not. Because the next section they engaged Malatesta to come down and reseal the road, and they just basically put reseal over top of what was there. Now, this has left some sections of the road with up to 75mm drop, which you can see in, I think it's photos 1 and 2. No. Yeah, I think it's photos 1 and... No, photos 7 and...
6 and 7?
That's the one, 6 and 7. Yep. Lost where I am now. This road, in recent years, has an increase in traffic. We've got B-double trucks, agricultural machinery, four-wheel drives, going fishing, caravans. There's a lot of traffic now use this road. And I think the condition of the road, both the resealed part and the unresealed part, is, well, it can be dangerous, to be blunt. And the condition of the roads also extends to Barara Road and Richardson Road that has bitumen on them, and the shoulders aren't being graded up and have got quite severe drops from the bitumen to the gravel. My main concern is the inadequate preparation for roads before they're resealed. For example, the latest road maintenance on Muralop Road was carried out. Contractors were told to reseal it. They did this, and it's left a very ragged and uneven edge from the original seal to the new seal, which is down at the gravel level. And Catherine, to her credit, came down a couple of days ago and had a bit of a look firsthand. It's created a precarious, that's the one to drive on. Yes, yeah, I can say that one. And a potential hazard for people who aren't used to those conditions. On the piece that was resealed from in 2023-24 has already developed holes on the edge of the old seal and the new seal. This can be seen in photos 3, 4 and 5. And this is purely because the shoulder wasn't built up before the resealing was done. So you've got an uneven edge and the old seal just immediately starts to break away. Also on this section, there's a piece of road, it's about 15-20 metres long. I can't say the shoulder wasn't built up because there is no shoulder. The seal has been laid over the edge almost into the drain, and there's a 180mm drop from the old seal to part of the new seal. And you can see that in figure 1 and 2. Now, anyone driving along that road at 60, 70, 80 kilometres an hour, if they're right on your left, the whole vehicle dips and comes back up again. And I think it's very dangerous to anybody who doesn't know that. Now, as contained in the Ford Capital Works plan from 21 to 36, the 22-23 reseal, which cost $60,000, and then the this year's reseal, 25-26 reseal, was $70,000. The first bit, they had 2 years to plan for it, and the second piece, they've had 4 years to plan for that reseal. It's not something that just suddenly decided, oh, we'll go and do this. They've had 4 years to plan for it. As demonstrated in pictures 3, 4 and 5, 2 years after the $60,000 was spent, this section of road now needs more maintenance. Now that can't be a good spend of Shire money, surely. Now, and that's purely because the preparation before resealing wasn't carried out. So therefore, in my opinion, the main issue with our local roads, particularly Muralop Road, is the inadequate preparation, planning and execution for ongoing maintenance and durability. Now, given the Shire has limited funds for roads totalling approximately 1,300 kilometres, I think more time and effort needs to be placed on understanding the nature of successful road maintenance so that future issues can be avoided. Now, I think on those sections of road, had the Shire decided to do the shoulders rather than resheeting the entire surface, I don't know what it costs the Shire to do a shoulder, but one would think that they could accomplish a lot more kilometres for the same amount of money and have a far superior road to what is there now. Our roads are a reflection on our community and our Shire, and these roads are something every local tourist and business utilise when they visit this area. If our daily experience on roads such as Muralop roads tends to be one of hazards, corrugations and treacherous road shoulders and potential danger, then I think this needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Excellent. Are there any questions, councillors? No. Thank you. Okay, we do have a couple of deputations that have been sent in that I will ask the acting CEO to read out. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I will start with a deputation from Jenny MacDonald, Northcliffe. Good evening, councillors. I'm here tonight as a concerned local and a founding member of the Northcliffe Community Development Group. We've been part of the community for 25 years now, and throughout that time our focus has stayed the same, supporting the social, cultural and economic development of Northcliffe. Our group brings together representatives from all the main community groups and committees. We meet monthly to share what's happening, swap ideas and work together. It's a simple approach, but it works. It keeps everyone on the same page, avoids doubling up and helps us move forward as a community. Over the years, the Northcliffe Community Development Group has been involved in quite a lot. Some highlights include the Pioneer Women's Gazebo, the Carry Pigeon newspaper, which has now reached 246 issues, playground equipment for local kids, and meals for volunteers during natural disasters. We've helped renovate the town hall, set up a caravan waste disposal site, supported improvements to the recreation dam, and contributed to the Northcliffe's 100th anniversary celebrations. We also provide grants to local groups and support community projects, and we've built a strong working relationship with the Shire of Manjimup. But beyond the projects, what really matters to the people, the development group brings volunteer energy into festivals, events and all sorts of community activities. After 25 years, we're a well-established and respected part of Northcliffe. We're already doing the work of connecting people, sharing information and getting things done. So from my perspective, there's no real need to create something new that duplicates what already is working. Instead, I'd really welcome closer collaboration with the Shire, perhaps by having a councillor or Shire representative attend the monthly meetings. That way, information can flow both ways, local priorities are better understood, and Northcliffe's voice can be shared directly with Council. Thank you very much for your time and your continued support of Northcliffe and the development group.
Can I just add on to that? The CEO, Ben Rose, and I have attended those meetings when requested, and we are more than happy if invited as a guest. Either myself or Ben will attend. You also have 2 Northcliffe Shire councillors that can be invited to those meetings at any time, and they can then they can then report directly back to council as part of our concept briefings. So there is definitely scope for Shire representatives to attend those meetings. I guess the how we interact, how we mesh the Northcliffe Development Group and the new district advisories. I guess that'll be a little bit of a work in progress. Who's the Northcliffe rep? Jason, Mr. Giadresco will address probably at the first couple of meetings, I'd say.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 3 more deputations. These are related to the Golf Links Road agenda item. So I'll start with a deputation from Anna Wild. As a landowner on Golf Links Road, I am writing to express my support for the proposed setback reduction to 120 metres. We have considered this a good idea since the start. However, unfortunately missed the advertising period for submission, so ask that you please consider our perspective at this date. Our main reasons for supporting this change are: 1. More space between neighbours. It has never made sense to us to have such a limited building envelope on a hectare block. The result of forcing all the building up the back of these narrow blocks is that the houses must be shoulder to shoulder, creating a dense residential environment where you can literally see through your neighbour's window. One of the objectives of the Greenlands estate was to provide low-density living. This objective has thus far been nullified by a 170-metre setback. We understand the desire for a buffer from the avocado farm across the road. However, feel that this buffer is fulfilled by the 80-metre agricultural buffer in the front of the blocks, and there is no need to restrict building on the remaining area of land. 2. Ability to build a larger house. Many of the blocks, particularly ours, become much narrower towards the back. When considering our house design, we have found this very restrictive with the 10-metre buffer zone on either side, as we simply can't fit a reasonable sized family house at the back and have had to adjust our plans accordingly. Bringing the building envelope forward by 50 metres would allow for building in the wider part of the block and more flexibility with house size and design. 3. Options for landowners in the future to build ancillary dwellings on the block. At the present time, my understanding is that there is not an option to build ancillary dwellings on the block. Should this be permitted by the Shire in the future, increasing the building envelope to accommodate such dwellings would be essential. Expanding the area in which landowners are able to build increase the utility and have value of our properties. I have read the objections to the proposed changes, and I would like to take a moment to comment on some of the points raised. I hear the expression of frustration and resentment from a few people who have completed their bills and feel they were unjustly restricted to a smaller building envelope, and therefore desire that others should experience the same restrictions. While I empathise with their frustration, I do not believe that a wish for others to experience the hardships that they faced is a valid reason to restrict future landowners' building capacity on their land. If anything, I feel that their acknowledgement of the challenges experienced by the 170-metre setback is evidence and valid reason to alleviate these obstacles for others. I concur with another submitter's statement of support for their proposal and their expression of disappointment that it has not been in place from the beginning. I don't believe one statement needs to negate the other. We can be disappointed that there may have been negative effects incurred due to the current restrictive building envelope, yet also support the proposed changes to make the building processes easier for others. Someone raised a concern that privacy in residences would be negatively impacted by increasing the building envelope. In my opinion, of the land and the buildings erected thus far, I see the exact opposite as being true. As mentioned prior, the 170-metre setback forces a high-density residential zone at the back of the block. Reducing the setback allows for more space between buildings and thus increases privacy. A reduction in noise interference and light pollution from neighbours' activities and more of the peace and quiet expected from owning a 1-hectare rural block. Another objector expressed a worry that the streetscape would be negatively affected by the proposed changes due to houses being visible from the street. I would like to point out that firstly, houses at the back of the block are already currently visible from the street in many parts, as well as sheds at the front. Secondly, the 80-metre vegetation buffer in the front of the block is designed to grow into a dense screen. And while it is still new and growing at this point, and perhaps hard to envision in its maturity in a few years, the concern of being able to see buildings from the street will be redundant. There was an objection citing the costs of site works, including building a retaining wall, and therefore a feeling from one landowner that others should incur similar costs in their bills as a matter of fairness. However, this is really more a result of the lay of the land and choice of block purchased, as many of the blocks are flat to the back, including ours, and a retaining wall will not be required regardless of the position of the buildings. There is always going to be a variation between blocks, and total build cost at this point seems irrelevant to the proposed change. There was an expression of concern about an increased fire risk building closer to the vegetation buffer. From my knowledge, any building in the building envelope would still be required to comply with the fire safety and distancing protocol. Some of the other points raised included concerns about building existing closer to farming activities on the north side of Golf Links Road. Not only does the 80-metre vegetation buffer account for this, but the land is zoned special use for this very reason, making it clear to landowners that agricultural activities are occurring close by, and as serving as a disclaimer to any potential complaint. I certainly had this understanding when purchasing the land. Am I at 10 minutes?
Just about. From the same thing.
Ultimately, reducing the setback and expanding the building envelope does not force anybody to build further forward on their block if they have reasons for wanting to build at the back. It simply gives a little more room for those who wish to utilise that space. As much as I hear the frustration from those who have already built, I cannot see any real financial or practical impact on existing homes by the proposed changes. I can only see positives for the utility and value of the land, flexibility in building options, and increased privacy and space to be enjoyed by all. I hope that the loud voices of the few won't outweigh the many logical and practical benefits for the rest of the landowners in this area. Thank you for considering my perspective.
I was not like to speak about like everyone else.
Sorry, that was at the question time right at the start. Thank you.
Okay. So, second deputation related to Golf Links Road is from Anthony Neville. My name is Anthony Neville, and along with my wife, Stephanie, we are property owners in the Greenlands estate. I would like to convey my support of the alternative recommendation for approval of the reduced setback Local Planning Policy 6117 Greenlands estate that will be considered in this week's council meeting. The reasons I believe the council should consider and support the amendment is because the existing policy is very restrictive, and I would like to build a granny flat for my in-laws when they come to stay for extended periods of time. The original environmental consultant, when assessing the development, recommended only a 100-metre, including the 20-metre road. The farmers across the road are not objecting to the reduced setback. Lastly, we are in the middle of constructing our house at the 170-metre setback in a location that meant significant expense in pad preparation due to the fall of the land. I hope with acceptance of this amendment, other landowners have greater flexibility to avoid this expense by placing their dwelling on flatter terrain. I would appreciate your consideration of my support of this amendment. And lastly, we have one final deputation from Natalie Smallberger, related to Greenlands Estate also. I unfortunately missed the public consultation undertaken and the opportunity to comment on this alternative recommendation to approve the reduced setback. I have already built my house, which is due to be finished shortly, and I am looking forward to moving from Perth to live in this beautiful part of the world. I noted in the agenda that the objections raised were as follows. The objections stated that the proposal would significantly affect the owners of the estate and neighbouring agricultural activities by removing the protection from spray drift, insect populations, traffic noise and noise from the nearby packing shed. They have also cited that there was a greater financial cost incurred for landowners who have already constructed, such as site works, retaining walls, and extract provisions for services and driveways. Other objections included that the streetscape will be impacted as homes will be more visible. The risk of fire threat when building closer to the vegetation will be increased, and that the changes will create a lack of trust in the Shire to respect the consistent policy setting for those in the estate. I would like to support the reduced setback, which will provide increased choice and options without compromising too much, as 120 metres setback is still a significant distance. I would also like to comment on the objections raised as follows. Despite having to alter my preferred building plan due to my block building envelope being very tapered at the back, it is not a reason to prevent others that have yet to build the opportunity to have something that is more suitable to their needs block by having the reduced setback at 120 metres. Those who are concerned with spray drift, traffic noise, etc. can still choose to build further back. Shire and councils often rezone and change their policies as conditions and situations evolve with time. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Shire and its personnel for the hard work that you do. As a newcomer to the area, I have nothing but praise for the help, support and guidance offered to me by the Shire in my building journey so far. Best regards, Natalie Smallberger.
Fabulous, thank you. 6.4 delegate reports, there are nil. 6.5 conference reports, there are nil. Item 7, confirmation of the previous minutes. Councillors? Councillor Mylan, did you want to do that? Thanks.
I move that the minutes of the previous meeting be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Tempera. Can we put that to the votes, please, Councillor? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. Item 8, motions of which previous notice has been given. There are nil. Officer reports. Office of the CEO. So because this is an out-of-town meeting, we'll run through them item by item. We don't do them on block, so just so everyone knows. So lucky. Okay. 9.1.1, the Australian Local Government Association 2026 National General Assembly. I would like to move an alternative motion. That Council, in relation to the current fuel security crisis and its impacts on the community, local businesses and the contractor service providers, resolves that no elected members or staff attend the upcoming National General Assembly of the Local Government Conference during the 2026 calendar year. Seconded, Councillor De Campo. Okay, so I think this is fairly self-explanatory, given what is going on. So I'll read the reason. The decision reflects Council's commitment to demonstrating leadership, financial responsibility and respect for the challenges being experienced across the community, particularly in relation to fuel availability, cost pressures and operational constraints affecting essential services and contractors. On top of that, we also don't have any strong advocacy positions that we need to go to Canberra for this year. Although myself and 3 other councillors and the CEO attended 2 years ago to the Canberra conference, it was an eye-opening experience. We learnt a lot, but given what is going on in the world, I just don't think it is appropriate for councillors to pop over to the other side of the country to hear what is going on. I think in reflection of what is going on within our communities, and we need to be sensitive to that, this could be a spend of $20,000 for us to go across to this. I think there are far better things that we could be spending our money on at this time. So, Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I too share your sentiment. In fact, we have a pre-meeting where we discuss things on the agenda. It was one of the things I was going to bring up. However, this is actually a biannual year, and most councils would do a biannual. Yeah, we haven't attended a lot in the past, and in fact, every time it is. This is more about the government itself getting a nice photo because it's actually intermingling with local government Australia-wide, and yet they won't. I think it's 3% of GDP, is it, that we'd like spent on local government. They won't look at doing that. So I agree. This year, this budget alone, if you look, and we do need some, to be spendthrift. If you look at this budget, finitely. There's 382,000 that we're spending on various projects. Two of them I'm hoping to see knocked on the head tonight, plus Ray Park, plus this 20,000. So I think in this, not in just this time, but it has been for some time that we need to look at being more frugal with the way that we use people's money, our money, because it doesn't come off trees. It's your money. So I agree. I completely concur with you, and I commend the motion to the rest of the council.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against the motion? Excellent. Can we put that to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you for your support. Okay, 9.2.1, proposed review of the Shire Manjimup Code of Conduct for council members, committee members and candidates. Councillor De Campo.
As per officer's recommendation with a slight change, Madam President. No, as per officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Mylan. Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to the motion?
No, this is a standard review of council policies. I'm not sure if you're aware in the gallery that every 2 years council policies, I think some might be 5, mostly 2, they all need to review. This is a standard review of the policy without a lot of change in it, I think. So, again, I commend the motion.
Councillor Mylan?
No.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.2.2, proposed local government electoral reforms. Okay.
I'd like to move as per officer's recommendation.
Oh. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Patink. Councillor De Campo?
In doing so, though, I'd like to be critical of the officer's recommendation, in fact. And for the only reason is that the government's moving very quickly on local government reform. I'm not sure if you've seen in the paper over the last 6 months the amount of commissioners that have gone into local governments and various other things. And local government reform is high on the agenda of this state government. The reason I'm critical is because we haven't been out to our community to ask them in relation to their view on how we should be elected. And there are a number of proposals within this agenda item that we've settled on one. However, it hasn't really been to the community, and that is because we were put under an immense amount of pressure from WALGA to have a submission in under a certain time. Now, a few of us had the view at the pre-meeting that, we should just tell them to wait, but there is a deadline. So whilst I move and will vote for the recommendation, this is one where we really haven't been to our communities, in fact, with a lot of time to ask them how they think we should be elected in the future. And the reality is we'll probably be going into a compulsory voting cycle, and there'll be a full spill. So we'll potentially have a new council or not, but compulsory voting is roaring into the view of councils across the state, and as I say, local government is high on the agenda of this state government, so I unfortunately commend the motion to you.
Thank you. Councillor Patink. Any other speakers? Yeah. Councillor Mylan.
I'd like to speak for the motion, but have expressed some of the same sentiments as Councillor De Campo. I'm concerned about the speed of the process, but we're just a small cog in the wheel that feeds to WALGA, which then feeds up to the state government, which has put a fast timeline on this whole thing. Personally, I mean, one of the main questions in this is about whether it should be compulsory voting for elected members in local councils, or whether it should be, as is now, free choice. And my gut reaction is that compulsory voting would be a good thing, because in the other there's only 2 states that don't have compulsory voting in local elections, us and South Australia. In the other states, the turnout's something like 85%. In WA and South Australia, it's around high 30s. So obviously we want people to participate in local government affairs, and one way is to get them to show some interest in voting, and obviously that would increase if it was increased at something like 80%. However, there are some things that come with that, and in some of one of the things that does go alongside compulsory voting is the move towards more party politics involved in local governments, which is the case in eastern states, where you then have Labor, Green, Liberal, whatever, independent type backed candidates for local government, and then when they vote on like political parties do on blocks and so on. And I don't think that's healthy either. Yep. So, so I'd like to retain the idea of independent people who can see both sides of an argument and not sort of politicise the local government situation. So, yeah, I'm torn with it. But the other thing is, I really don't think it's high on the agenda for the people that I talk to. I actually canvassed a few residents and asked their opinion, and some said, "Oh, I don't care." Others said, "Oh, yeah, guest compulsory wouldn't be bad," but I don't think it's an important thing. And if we come out and say, "Listen, we want compulsory voting," I think is that the main thing you're really concerned about at the moment? Because as has been spoken about tonight, there's a hell of a lot of other stuff going on that's challenging our communities, and I don't think that that would be very high on their radar in the future. Having said that, the state government's going to do what the government's going to do. And, it may have been nice to make a point, but I think we'll just commend the officer's recommendations as it is. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? I would just like to quickly speak on this. So this, Walga have asked for an official position from each of the shires within the state that will form their advocacy position. That advocacy position will actually come to the State Council to be voted on, which I am the elected member for our 12 Southwest councils. So although we don't have a direct, and the Minister of Local Government will be at that meeting. So although it may seem that we don't have a voice in this, I will actually get the opportunity to debate this at a state council level, which there are 12 Metro Council representatives, 12 Rural Council representatives. So although it seems like we are not going to get our voice on this, I will have the opportunity to put that voice across as the representative for our 12 local governments, Southwest local governments. So I definitely commend we vote as per the officer's recommendation, but the sentiment of our community will be taken into account. Did you want to close, Councillor De Campo? Can we please put that to the vote, councillors? All those in favour? It is carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.3.1, the Shire financial payments for January 2026. Mover. Councillor Wilcox, did you want to move that?
As per officers recommend.
Thank you, Councillor De Campo. Councillor Wilcox, you're awake down there? Seconder? Is there a seconder? Councillor Batink, Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to that? Councillor Batink? All those can we put that to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.3.2, the monthly financial statement. The monthly statement of financial activity for January 26. Councillor Tempera. Sorry.
I move as per the officer's recommendations.
You have to stand up, Councillor Tempera.
But then you're further away from the microphone.
Doesn't matter. Is there a seconder? Councillor Myland. Councillor Tempera, would you like to stand up and speak to that? Councillor Myland, can we put that to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.5.1, delegated planning decisions for February 2026. We're going to be here all night, councillors. Thank you, Councillor De Campo. Seconder, Councillor Burns. Thank you. Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to the item?
Yes, I think the report's very well done, and I'd like to commend the report to you and thank staff, particularly Jocelyn, for closing the windows. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't need to be here all night. Councillor Burns, can we put that to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.5.2, proposed adoption of amended local planning policy. 6.1.17, Greenlands Estate. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. I have an alternative recommendation. It is that Council in 1, in accordance with the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015, Schedule 2, Clause 5, adopt local planning policy 6.1.17, Greenlands Estate, as shown in attachment 9.5.2, 2 in brackets, subject to modifications outlined below. A. Amend clause 5.2a, 5.21a to replace references to 170 metre setback with 120 metre setback, and delete in accordance with the requirements of the structure plan endorsed in August 2013. B, amend clause 5.2a, 5.2.9 to replace references to the 170 metre agricultural setback with 120 metres. C, amend the example building envelope in Appendix 1 to reflect the modifications above. And 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to advertise adoption of the policy as detailed in point 1 above, in accordance with the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations of 2015, Schedule 2, Clause 5.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Burns. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. We've heard lots of stuff tonight, some in against and some in support, some that would... I should probably just read from the song sheet because it's the exact arguments that I have. However, this goes back a long, long way, and for those of you who are in this room and remember, I think this subdivision goes back around 16 years. The Director of Community Services and Director of Business might be the only two that were in the room that were here then. And these buffers, in fact, were put in place originally due to, the very vocal horticulturalist next door, and that's fair enough. We had a piece of priority agricultural land going to a subdivision, and people were rightly worried that it would impede on their ability to do their day-to-day business. Since then, in fact, the initial subdivision approval lapsed, and a new subdivision approval, I think around 2016, was approved, something like that. And then these blocks went forward. The dates might be sketchy, so don't hold me to the dates. Please don't get onto Feces book and tell them that I had the wrong dates at council. However, in relation to that, the setbacks stayed. So in that time, from 2016 till now, that's 9 years, 16 years ago is a considerable amount of time. It's time to bring that area into the contemporary planning phase, I think. It's time to look at all of the factors in relation to why the buffer was there. If you want to look at the horticultural exploits next door, 16 years ago there was a small shed with a gravel pad and a house. Now there is a major packing shed there, and in fact that major packing shed lends weight to the reduction in the buffer. It has gone from a small packing shed to a major packing shed, where at 4:30 in the morning there's about up to 12 to 20 trucks a day load out of there and go into there, and I don't think we've had one complaint from one resident that's already living there. The reality is planning has moved forward, and not just planning but economic circumstances. So the circumstance that, yes, you can have a small building block and a lot there 9 years ago was fine. Today we have a shortage of land that people can build their houses on. We have families that stay together longer because they have to. We have families that take care of their elderly because they need to and they should. And so the ability to do that is very important. I wrote down some of the things that were talked about earlier. In fact, some of them lend weight to it, some of them don't. And if I think about horticultural exploits around management, for argument's sakes, that integrate with residents, and residents that are of a far higher density, in fact an R12 density, I think. You've got Cherry Glades with a cherry orchard, which has noise, machines, squirrels, and sprayers going during particular times of year. You have Burton Street at the other end of town that has got an avocado orchard next to similar properties right across the road, similar properties of rural residential. If you think about your or the amenity of people in those particular blocks, there is a whole subdivision that's going to be built to the, what would that be, the southeast of those blocks. So there's a whole subdivision going to be built down the hill. And if you talk about amenity, well, the 100 metre buffer, which is 80 metres of a vegetative buffer, which once it grows up will definitely delineate residences from horticulture, and will offer, and it only should offer, some protection, because let's not forget, you shouldn't be spraying when the wind is pushing your spray onto somebody else's property. In fact, it's illegal, and so that would be irresponsible of the horticulturalist anyway. And it doesn't happen, and it never has happened since the time people have been built there, because we haven't had a noise issue, we haven't had a spray drift issue, we haven't had a vehicular movement issue since the intensification of that packing shed that's been there now for a number of years. And in fact, in this agenda item, although it's being a little bit scurrilous, in this agenda item there is support from that property saying that we support this proposal. Although, and I'll admit today, for transparency, that support was withdrawn. The reality is, I think, though, that the things that were said in some of those submissions are right. This, you shouldn't be allowed to do it because I wasn't allowed to do it, doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, if you think about policy changes, and yes, trust does come into it, I agree with that. But governments change policy all the time. Things have to happen, they have to evolve. If you think about policy changes just recently that have stirred the community up, you're not allowed to go and get abalone anymore. You're not allowed to demersal fish in the West Coast. It's 80,000 people with licences that can't do what they wanted to do. A policy change in native forest harvesting closed down a total industry in our shire. A policy change in the way FPC do pine plantations means that we don't get to have a say on the conditions. We don't get to have a say where they go. And we don't get to have a say on the fire suppression. We also don't get the rates. That's all policy decision stuff. So councils do make policy decisions, and I'm really heartened that, in fact, the people that wrote in and that said we've already built our house supported it, because they could have built a better house in a better spot, but they didn't deny somebody else that requirement. Now, if you look at the amenity of that place right now, all you see as you drive along Golf Links Road, in fact, is sheds and is tanks. And so I think this gives a better opportunity for people to put houses where they should put them. They're not squeezed into a small amount. It gives them the ability down the track, through some future amendments, to be able to do ancillary dwellings or other dwellings. They can join residences, they can have their kids, their mum and dad, their uncle and auntie, can have whoever they like. Or they can just have a shed and continue to put it where they want if they're concerned about the horticultural exploits next door. So I urge you to support the motion. It's a common sense motion, and in fact the most disappointing thing is that around the table when we discussed this, it was going to come out.
Excuse me, do you have no...
It was going to come out as a 120 metre buffer from the 170 metre buffer, but due to 3 written submissions against it, we reverted back to 170 metres. Now, if we did things because they were easy, not because they were hard, we would never do anything here, and that's obviously from the great JFK. But we don't do things because they're easy, we do things because they are hard. Thanks, Madam President. I commend the motion to you.
Thank you, Councillor Campo. Councillor Burns.
Thank you. Generally, when we debate an issue, I like to try and hold off to the end so I can hear other people's opinion. You know, assuming we all do our homework, as I'm sure we all do, we read the agendas and we read the reports. And as much as we're supposed to arrive here with an open mind, generally we turn up with a pretty good indication as to which way we're going to go. And I think it's not unusual to find that most things are carried unanimously, because most of the business we deal with is very straightforward, it is very clear-cut, and it is generally a very good thing. But the reason I wanted to go second today is because I wanted to try and steer the debate to answer my questions. Because with this one, I'm actually genuinely torn. This is a situation where no matter what we do, somebody's going to be ticked off. And it really comes down to what do we as council prioritise. Now, people have spent a large sum of money, they've bought a block of land, they've built a house on it, with the rules and regulations that were in place at the time. Do we prioritise consistency so that people have trust, that they can trust that when we say something will be a certain way, we carry through with it? Or do we prioritise updating our opinion based on the advice at hand? Now, thank you to Councillor De Campo, because I wasn't aware of why the buffer was 170 metres in the first place. But if the best planning policy, what's the word I'm looking for? Advice or industry best practice is for something less than 170 metres, then to stipulate it has to be 170 just because it used to be, in my mind, doesn't make sense. But then we're butting up against the fact, well, you're inconsistent, and how can I trust for something long-term, like building my house, that the rules aren't going to change under my feet? So this is why I think it's incredibly important we get the answers correct the first time round. And I'm not saying it wasn't. It was a decision that was made with the information that was available at the time. But when the information changes, I do feel like we have to change our opinion. based on the new advice that's available. I had this conversation with somebody, they may be in the gallery, and the example I used is we used to have planning requirements around where you could put your outside dining. We don't have that anymore because we're all lucky enough to have outdoor plumbing. So if we didn't change the rules based on the best available information, then would we all be still living in a world where before you're allowed to drive your car, you need to get the guy with the red flag to walk in front of you? And I don't know what's more important. To move with the times, I kind of feel that that's probably where you should go. But what happens to those people who made large investments, big decisions, based on what they believed was a reliable position of their council? So no matter what we do, we're going to be screwed. Sorry, I shouldn't use that word. We're going to be in trouble. We're going to be upsetting somebody. But personally, I think you need to move with the times, which is why, unless somebody can convince me otherwise, I think I'm going to be voting in favour. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Are there any speakers against the motion? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Moylan.
I'd like to speak for the motion, and I do sympathise very much with landowners who have gone before and had to commit to the rules as they were. However, as Councillor Burns and Councillor De Campo have indicated, policies do change. People build houses on a block of land and all of a sudden you're allowed to build 2 houses. I wouldn't have built my house over the boundary if I knew that later the zonings would change. I would have built my house closer to the boundary because now you can be right up against your neighbour. But when I built mine in 1984 or whatever, it was 1.2 metres. So that's unfortunate, but I do think we do need to move ahead with what's the contemporary practice, what's reasonable. I've driven down there a number of times. The trees have been small and they're now growing. So whatever benefit for the last however many years it's been there to stop spray hasn't been working for the first bit of time because the trees haven't grown yet. And I don't know that there's been any detrimental health impacts. I think the setback of 120 metres is ample, and from what I've read, I think we should support the motion to allow the owners of these parcels of land to use them a little, somewhat more flexibly, and there's still quite imposing restrictions on them and being at 120 metre setback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moylan. Are there any other speakers? I would just like to mirror the sentiments of my fellow councillors. The reputation of the Shire is obviously something that as a councillor you hold very high. It's why we sit around this table. Flexibility when things change is also something that we always take into account. Recently, we have changed our dam setback policy. So you can now have a dam setback from your boundary by 5 metres. Previously, it was 20 metres. So, previous to that, there were very large infrastructure requirements and a lot of money put into building a dam that had to be 20 metres from your boundary. It can now be 5. That was through the consideration of council that things had changed and we needed to be flexible. I think I definitely mirror Councillor Burns. It's a very hard decision to make, but that's what we sit around this table for, and it's to make the hard decisions. And sometimes it's that everyone is equally unhappy with you, that you know that you are doing the right thing, not that one person is happy with you. So I commend you to support the motion. And if there are no other speakers, Councillor De Campo, did you want to close?
Oh God, I might mess it up.
Yep, okay, let's keep it at that. Councillors, can we please put that to the vote? All those in favour and against? Carried 6-1. Thank you, Councillor. Fabulous. Okay, let's continue. 9.5.1, partial closure and modification of the Windy Harbour boardwalks. Is there a mover?
As per officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor De Campo. Is there a seconder? Councillor Burns, Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Burns, would you like to speak to the motion? Can we put that, any other speakers? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Is carried 7-0. Thank you. The budget adjustment, 9.5.4, budget adjustment, the site and contour survey of Windy Harbour Reserve. And councillors, I do have an alternative motion that I would like to put to you. So that alternative is that Council 1 defer consideration of this item subject to point 2, and point 2 being request that the report be brought back to the April ordinary meeting of Council with the inclusion of additional information outlining how the proposal supports the implementation of the Windy Harbour Management Plan. Is there a seconder? Councillor De Campo. This is an important decision that we need to make. I do not feel that we have had the opportunity to ask enough questions of the director who was on leave to the implications of this. So I would ask that you do support the deferment of this item until the April meeting. Councillor De Campo, did you want to add anything?
No.
Is there any other speakers to this? Councillor Burns?
I'm actually speaking against the deferment. I was at the agenda briefing session. I can acknowledge it would have been nice to have had the full suite of staff members responsible and available to answer those questions, but I commend the staff that were available at the time and the questions they gave. One of my arguments in favour of the original motion was going to be that as councillors we often say we need more information from our staff in order to make a decision. And this survey is essentially the staff saying we need more information so that we can make more accurate recommendations. So it was interesting, I thought, that the reason for the alternative was to ask more questions, because that's essentially what the staff are asking for our support to do, a high-level, drone-based aerial survey of an area that, as we saw today, is a beautiful, amazing place, but if you're the person responsible for managing it, by the nature of it, it's an absolute headache. So it's a large sum of money, but in the grand scheme of things, I believe is, I wouldn't say a drop in the ocean, it's more than a drop. It's a couple of drops in the ocean, but the benefits that would come out of having that information as soon as possible, I think, vastly outweigh the cost.
Did I say I reserve my right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Tempera, did you want to speak? Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I don't know if it's indulgent of me to say that I support this motion, but you don't know what you don't know. And after being to Windy Harbour today, at a very impressive place, that I have lots more questions as well, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And though I know that the original motion was the thumbs up to go and get more information, I actually think now I have a lot more questions that I think that the director may be able to answer. And I also think full credit to the staff who did the work, but there was some conflicting answers as well and not a lot of clarity, but also today highlighted to me how interwoven and complex some of those needs are as well. So I think by asking some questions, but again, that just might be indulgent on my behalf as well. So that's why I want to ask more questions now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor De Campo?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm fundamentally against it because I think $70,000 could be spent actually fixing the drainage rather than trying to find at the levels. In fact, you would be astounded, I think, to learn that what we affectionately called Chinatown in Windy Harbour was ocean once. So Windy Harbour has changed significantly over the years. Most people down there know where it floods in the winter, and they know where it doesn't flood. There was a flood, which is, although the coastal part of this has been put in at a later date, the surveying of the coastal part to try and get boardwalks to work when dual erosion happens every year. And this is no reflection on staff, by the way. It's just the fact that a flood happened this year due to the national park being burnt and having no litter in it, holding up water. We hadn't actually done our drainage in Windy Harbour, so the water was held up in our vegetation. And the drain that was supposed to drain the water out to what they affectionately call the Gardner Cut, I think, up further, was a very small pipe that was never actually engineered to the amount of water that might go through it. And so it caused a flood. In fact, my son's house was in the flood, so I know because I went with his excavator and we unblocked the drain. So I'm not sure that spending $70,000 on a study is going to fix the flooding. Clearing the drains will fix the flooding. We applied for, and I did ask today and would probably prefer to get the answer on record, but we did apply for a $100,000 grant, and I thought we got that grant in relation to the boardwalk studies for the erosion and how we could get the boardwalk down to the beach level. And I haven't heard anything since. I don't know where that grant is, but I thought we got that grant, but our business director today says that we may not have. That would have been probably nice to know as a part of the information, as Councillor Tempera says. I just think this is going to come out of the reserve in Windy Harbour, $70,000. If we have a major water issue, what's the use of a plan for your contours when you haven't got the money to spend on your water infrastructure or your roading infrastructure or to clean the drains out initially? So I'm speaking in favour of the motion to not spend the money or to defer so that we can talk about not spending the money in the future.
Okay, councillors, I will just close then. So I think a lot of the points that Councillor De Campo has raised is exactly why we need to defer this motion. There are more questions than we have answers as councillors. The information that we got on the site visit, which Councillor De Campo wasn't at today, we did ask a lot of those questions about the drains, and I am not sure that the statements that Councillor De Campo is making is actually reflective of what the problems are down there. So this is why I'm asking that we defer this item so that we are very clear about whether or not we spend this $70,000 to have the site surveyed, which if we were to put in pipes and then the site had not been surveyed, part of the tender could include surveying of the site to put in the pipes, which we would then not own that information. So I think there are more questions than answers, and I would ask you to support that we defer this item. Councillors, can we please put the deferment to the vote? All those in favour of deferring and against? Thank you, Councillor. Fab. Okay, 9.5.5. Response to proposed nomination for the inclusion of the Bibbulmun track to the site register of heritage places.
That's your officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wilcox, Councillor De Campo. Councillor Wilcox. That's a shame that neither of you commented because I have an interview with the ABC tomorrow morning to speak about this.
Say something if you want. I can say that we need to be very careful when we do put things on the state heritage list that it doesn't impede us in doing things. However, I think in this case, the Bibbulmun track has been around a long time and it is world recognised, and so it is well and truly worthy of going on the State Register of Heritage, Madam President.
Thank you. I will quote you tomorrow morning, then, Councillor De Campo. Thank you very much. I'll make sure I give you full credit. Are there any other speakers to this item? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour?
That's a lie.
That is a lie. 9.5.6, retrospective application for change of use of a dwelling to a residential building, workers' accommodation at Lot 8 in brackets 12/47, Johnson Street, Manjimup. Is there a mover? Councillor Mylan.
Can I please move as per the officer's recommendation?
You certainly can. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tempera? Okay. Councillor Mylan, did you want to speak to this, please?
Yes, I would like to speak to it. I think this is an important issue, as I've spoken to previously about group dwellings. Well, it's not group dwellings, residential dwellings, boarding house type situations where more than 6 people unknown to each other are housed in the same building. Now, the reason I'm supporting this is because it's for a 12-month period and it will be reviewed, and we are looking at this situation closely. However, I have concerns that we have a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house that we are approving 8 people who are probably, from what I understand, living in it on a 400-metre square block of land. There is another one of these items following, which is substantially different in the sense of what facilities are available. Personally, I think if bedrooms in houses are of a standard sort of normal bedroom size, 3.5 metres by 3.5 roughly, or something like that, I would have thought 2 people in that room would be a good standard for someone in Australia to have per bedroom. But we know that there are other health laws and that are contrary to that, which I don't think that really stops us from having our say about what we think is a good thing. So I'll support this motion where this house with 3 bedrooms will have up to 8 people in it, and I look forward to how we go in the next 12 months reviewing this situation.
Thank you, Councillor Mylan. Councillor Tempera? No? Okay. Are there any other speakers? Can we put that to vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Is carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.5.7, retrospective application for change of use from a dwelling to a residential building, workers' accommodation at lot 136 in brackets 41 Jamison Street, Pemberton. Councillor De Campo.
As per officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Burns. Councillor De Campo. Councillor Burns. Are there any other speakers? Can we put it to vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.9.1, proposed budget amendment for the Manjimup Regional Aquatic Building Management System replacement. Whew, that was a mouthful. Who made that one up? Mover? Councillor Burns, seconder? Councillor De Campo. Councillor Burns, did you want to speak to the motion? No. Councillor De Campo. Although, can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? It's carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.9.2, request for Shire contribution to the regional trails strategy for the Warren Blackwood region, Warren Blackwood Alliance of Councils.
As per officer's recommendation.
Oh. Is there a seconder? Councillor Mylan. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you. In moving this motion as per officer's recommendation, I'm going to speak against it. And I'm going to speak against it for a number of reasons. Some of them have already been outlined today. This is another $17,000 contribution out of today's agenda, on top of $290, I think, for an office rebuild, and $70 that we've deferred for Windy Harbour, and $20 that we've rejected, thankfully, for Canberra. My problem with this particular spend is the fact that it came out of the blue. Now, we significantly fund the Warren Blackwood Alliance. We are the major contributor to that. And I'm not sure that out of the blue another $17,000 request, although there is some indication that maybe somewhere somebody had a jot note on their desk that said we're looking for $17,000, but we couldn't find that anywhere. And the reporting of the Alliance has been substandard of recent times for the amount of money that we are spending there. The major contributor to that, if we pulled out of that Alliance, it would fail. Having said that, the Alliance is doing good things, but they have to do it with proper and due regard to our budgets. I mean, $17,000 is the bulk of the money going into this, as the report says. Boyer Brook, who I'm not sure have confirmed they are going to contribute or not, now they've got a
reprieve
donation from the government in relation to the rates they're losing from plantations, although it's about half of what they're losing, I believe. They may be contributing, but their contribution is something like $1,500 or $1,600. I've got a lot of numbers in my head. So when our contributions, I believe, 100,000. Greg, Mr. Lockwood, you would be able to better tell us what our contribution to the Alliance is a year in relation to both the Southern Forests and Valleys, the Alliance itself's contribution, and any other thing we might be doing. It's getting up there. That's the point. And so to have another $17,000 out of the blue. And we say it's all right, it's just coming out of a reserve. And yet we sit around this table at budget time and we argue about a couple of $100 for a community group, and we say, no, you can't get your couple of $100, and yes, you can. Or you're an event and you can only get $3,000 instead of $5,000. And so I think that, I would just like to see the Alliance have better regard to due and proper process in relation to budgetary items. We shouldn't have these at the end of a budgetary period. It should be the beginning of a budgetary period. And if we defer it till then, I'd be very happy. It's probably matched by something else. They're doing a great job in that area. I just think it's getting a little bit out of control, and we probably just need to give it a little nudge to say, hang on, we are you're the benefactors of our goodwill. So I speak against the motion, although I did move it. I can't commend it to you.
Thank you. Councillor Mylan.
Yeah, I'd like to speak for the motion, but I actually concur with what Councillor De Campo is saying. The timing, the sort of somewhat haphazard reporting and lack of really clear information needs to be improved. And I think we've talked about it briefly, but we do need to have more discussions about it, and we need to make sure that we do that. And I need to probably take some responsibility for that as a member on that board, for not really thinking about how I would report back after those bi-monthly sort of meetings, and we probably should incorporate that into our briefing days in the future. However, you know, it is one of those things, and it's probably in my little short time, frustrations with here's a grant, right, let's match it, and all of that stuff, and if we don't take advantage of it. So there's $49,000 out of 100, you know, roughly half of it's coming from a grant to do a $100,000 project, which I also think, gee, that's a lot of money for a trails map and so on. But I understand that when you've got a good trails plan and you've mapped it all out, then when further grants come, this helps you secure those. So, you know, it's the grants people, you know, and the grants writers who love this kind of stuff. However, this trails across our shire, I think, are very important, and it does provide an opportunity to work together. So, whilst we might pay $17,000, the value, if we were to try and do something like this just for an hour little patch, it might not make sense because trails don't follow shire boundaries. They go across them. And some of the objectives, particularly that I liked about this trail objective, was the audit to sure alignment with the Western Australian plan. But one thing I did pick up was to enhance Indigenous engagement, and that was one of the objectives of this. And we were at Windy Harbour today, and we didn't go to the lighthouse, where there was a really great Indigenous interpretive set of signs along that thing that I saw the last time I was there, and we went for a bit of a walk. It's a great little part of Windy Harbour, but it really does give a good background to the you know, Indigenous experience of the land there and how they interpret the land. And I think really in our trails and in our tourism in general, it's something that we could probably enhance, going to other parts of Australia, going to other shires and seeing some of the way. And it might have been, for whatever reason, more difficult to do it with our knowledge, but to engage Indigenous stakeholders, to perhaps incorporate into our trails the Aboriginal experience of the land. I know that people who come to Australia are very interested, generally tourists who come to Australia, and people who walk on these trails are actually genuinely interested in the fact that we have many. We're a land that's been inhabited, you know, for a very, very long time, and so I like that idea of it. I think that if we can use this money to develop a plan that goes across the districts, then like the Bibbulmun Trail, which is iconic, and we've talked about it, you know, then I think it'll put us in good stead for future projects that we want to do. But more importantly, I think we'll actually gain a financial advantage by spending $17,000 to get something that if we were to try and do it ourselves, I think it would cost a hell of a lot more. And it will put us in a good position to secure other grants for trail projects. And let's face it, trails are the go. Everywhere you go, there's bike trails, there's walk trails, there's running trails, there's, you name it, trails, snail trails.
Are there any other speakers? I would just like quickly also like to endorse this. I was the chair of the Alliance last year. This was highlighted that the master plan, the existing master plan, was from 2009 to 2011. There have been significant developments within our trail networks through the 5 towns. $16,000 is a very small part of that $101,000, which the executive officer had put a great deal of work into getting that nearly $50,000 worth of grant funding, which enables us to map all our horse, walk, paddle and bike trails throughout the entire 5 towns. It does give us a good base to get any more funding, further funding, to enhance and maintain those trails. So I would also implore that you support this recommendation. I do recognise, though, that the direction of the Alliance will be worked on at the next meeting, which some of those concerns will be raised then. Mr. Councillor De Campo, did you want to close?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. First, a correction. Bowerbrook's contribution is $3,639.30.
Yeah.
The 30 cents is very important. If they don't give that, it's probably going to fall over.
Well, someone else has to.
I just want to dispel a myth here, in fact, and point of order me at any point. I don't think I'm out of line yet. I just looked up on the Warren Blackwood Economic Alliance site. Actually, it's the Warren Blackwood, it's the Southern Forest and Valley site, and it shows all the trails, actually. It shows all of the trails. It lists all of the trails. 100-year Forest Trail Walk, Taste of the Valley Giants Trail, a Taste of the Valley and Giants Trail Drive, Ancient, I didn't even know half these existed, Ancient Empire Walk Trail, Ankle Biters Loop Mountain Bike Trail, Pemberton Mountain Bike. Anyone got some ankle biters here? Catherine. Anunaka Walk and Cycle Trail. So that to give the impression we don't have a trail strategy, I think is reasonably misleading is the wrong word. However, it's probably a little bit misleading. Let's not forget, if we fund this today as a strategy, the cuppeth come back. The cuppeth come back. All this is about is applying for future grants, and the cuppeth will come back to be refilled. Just remember that. So we know what trails we have. Half of them aren't ours, by the way. I think the Warren Blackwood Alliance or the Southern Forest and Valleys only has 2 trails. It has the Bridle Trail, and what's the other one? You two are on there. Oh, no, the Bridle Trail. So I'm not sure why it's our responsibility as a little local government to do tourism within the whole of the Shire. But just remember, the cuppeth will come back.
Just a point of order, this is not... Councillors, can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? And against? Shock me. Thank you. 9.9.3, proposed interim solution to the Shire Management Administration Building Office constraints.
As per officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Burns. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you. Just quickly, time is roaring on. This provides a solution short term for an overcrowded office that needs a lot of work done to it. It will segregate our people out of one building into 3, or 2 buildings into 3 now. However, I think that as a short-term solution, it is a good one. There might be some good neighbourly things that need to be developed within the building, as it has 2 tenants in there now. I won't say what I really think about that, but I commend the motion to you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Are there any other speakers? Can we put that to vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.9.1, status update, divestment, aged and community care services and assets. Mover? Come on, people, you can do it. Just because you need to get up and down, you can do it.
I'm getting to that age.
Councillor De Campo.
When your knees do get sore.
Councillor De Campo.
So somebody else, if they could use their knees, would be ideal. As per officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tempera. Councillor De Campo. No. Councillor Tempera. All those in. Are there any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.9.5, proposed endorsement of the community blueprints for Manjimup, Northcliffe, Pemberton, Quinninup and Walpole.
I move as per the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Tempera. Is there a seconder? Councillor Batink. Councillor Tempera, did you want to speak to the motion?
I'd like to commend the Shire and the people involved, in particular the Director of Community Services, for the amount of work and planning that has been put in for community consultation.
Thank you. Councillor Batink. Are there any other speakers? I would also just like to follow that up from Councillor Tempera. This has been a fantastic process. It has really involved a community. We've had good buy-in from community, but it has taken a lot of effort from the community services team, and we absolutely acknowledge how much work they have put into this. And planning. Good job planning too. And planning. Can we please put that to the vote? Councillors, all those in favour? 7-0, thank you. 9.9.6, proposed Ray Park and Collier Street redevelopment, proposed commencement of stage 2. Councillor De Campo.
Can I just move as per office recommendation with a small change in point 2, and I'm not going to read the whole recommendation, however I will read point 2. It is that Council approve the commencement of the procurement processes, including public tenders for Stage 2A works, with the timing of procurement to be managed by the CEO, having regard to current global pricing volatility and market conditions, and the outcomes of these tenders be presented to Council for consideration and contract award in accordance with the Shire's procurement requirements.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? I'll second it. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. This is a great project that does need to see fulfilment. However, I today know of somebody who has paid in Mile Up on farm $2.15 a litre for diesel. There are companies that will go out of business due to the increase in procurement costs, and so I think we just need to be cautious with the wording. Approve the commencement of procurement processes. Now, I was assured in discussions with the Director that that's around September, but this might not be over in September. And what I don't want is our community to have to put into their pocket in November, December, January, February for another $600,000 because building costs have gone up 20 and 30 and 40%. So I think it's very wise and prudent that we put in a few words that allows the CEO to manage that. Because I know, as well as past projects here, and a couple of them are notable that we're still dealing with, that regardless of world issues around, sometimes we forge ahead. And that would be, I think, in this current climate, and as it was in that climate I should say, it was perilous. And so we just need to have regard. If we need to defer this project for 12 months, then we defer it, because there is one thing for sure. We like to sell these things as we're the only one in the boat, but we are in the boat with everyone. So everyone is having this issue across Australia. So if there are grants to acquit, they will all have the same problem. Yep. But we are about getting the best bang for our ratepayers' buck, and I think having those few small words in there allows that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. I absolutely concur, Councillor De Campo. We are all well aware of the rising costs to go out to tender now when we've worked so hard to get this money. We certainly need to make the most of the funds that we've managed to obtain to do this, bearing in mind that we understand how much the community wants this project at a speedy rate to go ahead. I will be sending the hockey people to all of you this year. Councillors, can we please put that to the vote? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. Okay, 9.13.1, proposed award of tender 3/26 Graphite Road, in brackets SLK 1.12 to 1.72 construction upgrade. Go on then. Councillor De Campo. Oh, thanks.
I'd like to move as per officer's recommendation for this obscene amount of money to be spent on a road that we just spent an obscene amount of money on in town.
Tell us what you really think. Or a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Campo, did you want to elaborate on
Oh,
any
I think
of
I've
that?
said enough,
That's
yeah.
fantastic. Thanks very much. Councillor Burns, I don't think we need to. Look, this is a very long road and we would really like to give this back to Main Roads, but they're not going to take it back from us anytime soon, so we do need to continue on with this. The upgrades of the works, which are not getting any cheaper the closer we get to Nannup. We all know what will happen by the time we get to Carlotta. So I would put this all to the vote. To you implore that we support this. Councillors, can we put it to the vote, please? All those, if you want, do you want to close?
Well, you open the door, so, you know, when you open the door, I mean, there was a former councillor said he would be dead before we get to Carlotta. I think 53 kilometres is Graphite Road.
Not all hours.
We've got to the town boundary. And that's why I say it's an obscene amount of money. And in fact, last year's, and it is nobody in this room's fault.
No.
Last year's $1.1 million rebuild is already failing. So it was failing before and it's failing again. And yet we've thrown $1.1 million at it. I just think we probably need to have a look at where we spend our money, given tonight's deputation and how roads are crumbling around the place. Maybe paved with gold in town is not the way we should do it in the future. I commend the motion to you, though.
Can I ask a question before we do vote on this? The tendered price, is that likely to change now? Will we need to reconsider that tendered price?
Yep, thank you, Madam President. I might pass to the Acting Director of Infrastructure to discuss clauses in the tender.
We do have rise and fall clauses relating to bitumen price in this tender. So, yes, in answer to your question.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Which you'll note that we have allowed some extra money from a job that's completed to cover those, what we know will come at us as rises in costs. Correct.
And fuel. Okay, councillors, can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you very much. 916.1, unconfirmed minutes of the Bushfire Advisory Committee BFAC meeting held on the 24th of February 2026. I'll move it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tempera. So I was at this meeting. There are a couple of points in here that I would just like to highlight that we certainly do need to do some work on our fire, the boundaries of our fire. We are currently put in with the Shire and Nannup. That certainly does influence our fire weather ratings. So also to just sort out a new home for our bushfire brigade and handing over to the co-location to DFAS is a great move. We respect our emergency services so much, and making sure that they have adequate facilities is incredibly important. Councillor Tempera. Are there any other speakers? Fabulous. Can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you very much. Right, we're nearly there. 916.2, unconfirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Management Advisory Committee meeting held on the 24th of February 2026. Mover. Thanks, Councillor Burns. Seconder. Councillor Batink. Councillor Burns, did you want to speak to? Councillor Batink, did you want to speak to it? Can we put that to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay, late reports. There are nil. Questions from members. Response to questions from members taken on notice. There are nil. 11.2 questions from members. Nil. 12. Motions for consideration at the following meeting. We have 2. 12.1. Councillor Tempera.
Thank you, Madam President. So, a notice of motion improving accessibility and inclusion across all Shire committees and community groups. I move that this council, my motion relates to that this council affirms its legislative obligations under the Disability Services Act of 1993 WA to ensure that people with disability have the same opportunities as others to access services, facilities, information and civic participation within the Shire of Manjimup. Number 2, notes the commitments outlined in the Shire of Manjimup Access and Inclusion Plan, particularly the objectives relating to accessible customer service and communication, inclusive community engagement, equitable access to public participation, including appointment to committees and community groups established or supported by a shire. Number 3, recognises that current processes for nominating, applying and participating in shire committees and community groups may present unintended barriers for people with disability, including but not limited to barriers in communication methods, application formats, meeting accessibility, transport and accommodation of diverse support needs. Number 4, requests the CEO to undertake a comprehensive review of all Shire managed or Shire supported committee and community group processes, including application and nomination procedures, communication formats and information accessibility, meeting locations, technology use, physical access and environmental suitability, provision for reasonable adjustments and support needs, barriers to participation identified by community members with lived experience of disability. Number 5, further request the review to include consultation with local residents with disability, relevant disability and advocacy organisations, members of the Shire's Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee, if applicable, staff responsible for community engagement and governance process. Number 6, request the CEO to provide Council with a report detailing by the end of the year, December 2026, findings of the review, identify gaps or barriers to accessibility and inclusion, recommendations for policy, procedural, operational improvements, options for reasonable adjustments, resourcing implications and implementation timeframes. Number 7, directs that, following completion of the review, the Shire of Manjimup Access and Inclusion Plan be rewritten and expanded to provide greater clarity, detailed actions, measurable outcomes and comprehensive guidance to ensure equitable participation for people with disability across all Shire-related committees and community groups. And lastly, request that the draft revised Access and Inclusion Plan be returned to Council for consideration, public consultation and endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tempera. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. I have two this evening. The first is that Council 1 notes the hardship rate relief proposal presented by Mr Alan Rasmussen on the 16th of December 2025. 2, endorses in principle a rate relief framework based on the 75-25 model outlined in that proposal for the purpose of assisting ratepayers experiencing verified financial hardship. 3, requires that any application for relief must be supported by an independent financial assessment undertaken by a suitably qualified and registered financial counsellor to ensure fairness, consistency and accountability. 4, notes the proposed relief is intended to apply within a financial year and be only available once to eligible applicants. 5, requires the eligibility criteria for the scheme to be clearly defined, that it is only available to individual homeowners. 6, directs the Chief Executive Officer to undertake a feasibility and implementation assessment of the proposal, including A, the financial impact of the proposal on the Shire, B, the practical mechanisms required to implement the proposal, C, the recommended eligibility criteria and administrative controls for the scheme, and D, options to reduce the administrative and financial burden on the Shire. 7, request that a report be presented back to Council at the next available meeting or as soon as practicable prior to the 26-27 budget deliberations, with findings and recommendations Council's for final consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
The second one is not as simple. So it is that Council, in accordance with Part 10 of the Shire of Manjimup Local Planning Scheme Number 4, grant Delta Forestry planning approval for the re-establishment of a plantation Pinus radiata at lots 9424, 9148, 9133, 9134, 9135, 9021, 9020, 9019, TP 2025/181 in accordance with the approved plans and specifications and subject to the following conditions. Do you want me to just read the changed conditions? Condition 1 is as per the prior item to Council. Condition 2 is per the prior item to Council. Condition 3 will read: the CEO or his authorised representative negotiate with Delta Forestry on a fire management plan that could better meet the community expectation prior to the next Council briefing meeting. All other conditions remain the same.
13, new business of an urgent nature introduced by a decision of the meeting. There is nil. Applications for leave of absence. Okay. Can we move? Would someone like to? So you are applying for a leave of absence. Thank you.
I move that we approve a leave of absence for Councillor Tempera.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wilcox, Councillor, would we like to debate that? No, Councillor.
I'll speak in favour of that. Do I resume?
Can we put that to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? That's the April meeting? Yes. Yep, thank you. So that's 6 for and 1 against. Okay. No. 15, there being no further business to discuss, I wish to thank everyone in attendance and close the meeting at 7:44. Thank you all very much for coming.